Happy holidays, friends. Today we're going to make a holiday favorite of ginger snaps, and this recipe comes from the Medical Medium, and I will write it out in the comments. So the first thing you need is molasses, and this is a giant bottle of organic molasses. So molasses is great. It's high in minerals. It has potassium and calcium. So you're going to start with 2 tablespoons. I already did it just because it's a little slow. I didn't want to make you watch the molasses slowly pour out of the bottle. And then it calls for 1/4 cup of coconut oil. And if you can't do coconut, I'm going to use olive oil today instead. Okay. So starting with these wet ingredients, then it calls for a tablespoon of unsweetened plant milk and 1/2 cup of coconut sugar. And this is just regular sugar because I can't do coconut. We're going to start with those ingredients first and whisk them together. And I'll put a link to a couple of my other favorite cookie recipes on my channel, Snickerdoodles and the powdered sugar snowballs, which are both amazing. So we are having a little oil and sugar, but it's the holidays, so hopefully it's okay in moderation. All right, we're gonna move on to our dry ingredients. And we are gonna start with a cup of almond flour, and I love Bob's Red Mill almond flour. I actually got this for $7 off at my Kroger store, which is pretty amazing. It's normally around $12, $13, and I got it for like $5. It's an amazing deal before Christmas. So we start with a cup of almond flour, and then it calls for 1/2 cup of oat flour. So I blended 1/2 cup of oats in my Vitamix, and oats have that binding ability. So I noticed this recipe does not have a vegan egg, so if you can stick with using the oats, it might help keep it together. Then it asks for 1/2 cup of rice flour, and I just am using Bob's Red Mill once again, gluten-free, all-purpose baking flour. So the first time I make a recipe, I like to follow it and then, if needed, make some tweaks. But we're just gonna see if we can keep these 3 different flours together. All right. And then we get the fun spices. So we've got some cinnamon. I love this giant cinnamon from Kirkland Costco, a full teaspoon. And then 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. And ginger is antiviral. It helps with muscle and nerve spasms. So you could put a little ginger root in some hot water and with some tea. We're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of that. Do a little heaping, all about the heaping. And then the baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And baking powder. And I wanted to show this brand. This is a baking powder that does not have corn in it. So if you are corn sensitive, I have really searched the internet, but it's made with potato starch by Geffen. And it's been really, really helpful to help me keep corn out of my diet. All right, those are the dry ingredients. Give that a little stir. So you can see it's a fairly simple recipe. You kind of have to gear up to make cookies, to be in the mood and be in ball rolling mode, which we will do here in a minute. Get some of these pockets. Baking soda mashed down. I hope everybody's enjoying the holiday season despite COVID, and still celebrating and being grateful for all your blessings, especially health. My mom says health is wealth, and it's true. It's the greatest. It's the greatest wealth. Okay. Give that. I know that does not look appetizing, but I'm feeling it's going to taste pretty amazing. So let's just slowly get that going here. You know what? I'm going to shift gears, sorry. Well, where he started. Technically, you could just do the dry into the wet instead of trying to get all this out, but we'll be okay. And you're gonna turn on the oven at 350, have that preheating while you're doing this. And this is actually gonna go in the fridge once we get our dough here. And for 15 minutes, you're gonna chill it to help it make it a little easier, hopefully, to roll the balls. So let's get this whisk. I know it's messy, but it's gonna be worth it. Yummy. Okay. I have some other good entree and side dishes on my channel for Christmas, like a lentil loaf and tofu turkey, cranberry kale salad, things like that, if you're needing some ideas. I think I'm just gonna dive my hands in here in a minute. And if it's a little too dry, you can add just 1 more tablespoon of plant milk. Okay, keep it going. All right, I'm just gonna dig in here. I'm gonna add just a half. You can really smell the yummy, yummy ginger and molasses. And just 1 more half, so 2 tablespoons total. And then I'll give it a good mash 1 more time when I pull it out of the fridge, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and set this in the fridge for 15 minutes and we'll be back to roll some balls and sugar. Thanks. Okay, so we're back and I let the dough sit about 30 minutes actually in the fridge and it's nice and stiff here. Good for making the balls. And what you're gonna do is, I just use this ice cream scoop. They're gonna be a little small. That's okay, because there'll be more of them. Found them. And then we're gonna roll them in sugar, which I just did. And the recipe calls for coconut sugar. I'm just using regular organic cane sugar. And whoops, that one did just kind of fall apart. So just mash it back together and you'll be okay. They'll still taste good. And they will look, when they flatten out a bit, they have that nice crack. So we'll do 1 more here while you're with me. And you can always add a little more plant milk. Just start small on how much you add. But 2 tablespoons worked for me. Okay, give it a little roll. You always skip that part. And voila. So I'm gonna keep going, rolling these balls. We're gonna bake them for 10 to 12 minutes at 350. Check them at 10, see, and you might need to flatten them down with a fork at the end. And I'll see you when they're done. Okay, look at these amazing ginger snaps. So I cooked them for 10 minutes. Then I did a little fork press and put them back in for 2, and I snuck a little bite, and they are delicious. So this made about 15 cookies. You could double the recipe if you need more, whatever you want. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a happy and safe holiday. And as always, thank you for saving animals with your food choices.